So I think this is one of the juiciest, most delicious roles for women on television today. I reveled in every episode that you were on. Tell me what you thought when you first were shown something introducing you to Alison Carr.
So I got a couple of scenes to read, and I went and read for Alex Ganser. And I wasn't aware of all the, the machinations of what was going to be going on, but I got a slight feeling that there was perhaps something personal between her and Saul, which I thought would be really interesting. And then in the audition, Alex told me that I would be playing, if I got the role, I would be playing basically a double agent, and that I was having an affair with Saul. And I thought that sounded really juicy. I was fascinated by the idea of what kind of psychology it would be to play both sides. I mean, I think in itself, being in this area of work, it's very secretive, and you can only tell so many people. But then to be working for both sides, the idea that you're really completely alone, except for the handler. That's the only person who really knows you.
That's what struck me, was how strong and powerful she was,
So
at the same
strong.
time that she was extremely lonely.
Yeah, I found her someone who was very compartmentalized, in that I was trying to work it out along the way, like how would I play both things? How would I be in both worlds? And I realized that I just had to be absolutely true to the CIA in the moments that I was working for them, and then absolutely true to the SVR in the moments that I was working for them, and that I couldn't kind of blur the lines in between. I just had to be clear about who I was working for at what time. And I think that's how Alison lived her life, was, in these different pockets. And the funny thing, one of the things that Alex Ganser actually gave me was a book on Kim Philby, and that was really fascinating. His relationships with people, and what it alluded to what actually drove him. To my mind, when I got to the end of the book, there was a very sort of telling description that when someone went to visit him in Moscow, that they actually found that on the bookshelves was every book that had ever been written about him was there. And that says to me that a part of it has to be ego, to kind of get into that world of playing both sides.
So it is a kind of power dynamic with winning somehow in each encounter, or surviving. What is the motivation?
I think there's all kinds of, they talk about MICE, M-I-C-E, and that those are the 4 motivations of why someone would do this. And one of those is ego. I'm trying to remember what all of them were, but another one is about being ensnared, and she's definitely trapped into it. But I think deep down for Alison, there was that thing of enjoying feeling that you're the smartest person in the room, that you're the person who is holding the most information, that you've got, people can be saying all these things, but deep down that you know more about what is actually happening. I think she really enjoyed that. And I know that when I was playing it, I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed thinking that I sort of knew more than everybody else in the situation.
That smartest person in the room line was used in Zero Dark 30.
Oh,
which
really?
For me is one of the few cases where Hollywood came up with a woman who was a professional, who was powerful,
Yeah,
who
yeah.
wasn't defined by her sexuality.
Yes, true.
And I wondered if you had been struck by that in any way. It was so radical for its day, and it shouldn't be.
No, it shouldn't be. And I felt that with this role as well, that in some ways, I mean, there were definitely very female parts to the role, but it was written as if it could have been a man. Like, there were moments where she was slightly, vulnerable and, I don't want to say panicked, but really trapped. But her solutions to things kind of seemed very masculine. She was always on the attack. She never kind of took a defensive position in things. She always seemed, when I thought that, I would be definitely trapped and caught, I would come back with something that was a very attacking kind of response, bringing somebody else down, or, particularly when we were, when I escaped and then I got to my handler and then we were, arrested and we thought, well, that's it. And then they wrote that great scene when I turned around and said no, that actually I was bringing him in, that he was mine. It's like, it's so clever.
That was the best episode ever. And she didn't succumb, you didn't succumb to panic.
No.
Anyone else, I mean, even a man, it seemed like there were no exits.
No, I thought there were no exits. I kept thinking even from early on, from about episode 4 or 5, I thought, well, I'm going to get found out soon. Because now the audience knows what I'm up to, even if nobody else knows, the audience knows. And so I'm sure to be found out really soon. And then they just kept coming up with more ways. They kept pushing it, closer and closer and tighter and tighter. And, and I kept thinking, she cannot get out of this. And then they managed to keep it going, right to the end, even with Conrad and Dr. Aziz. I thought, surely she's caught now, she's got this minder, it's all gonna, and then she comes up with another incredible plan. She was so full of surprises. Every time we got a new script, it was just another huge surprise of like, oh my God, I can't believe she's gonna get away with this. I wanted her to get away with it in the end. I argued really strongly. Not for the point of like, I understood with the character that so much had happened with her that I felt it would be difficult to write for her again in another season, because she was under such suspicion by this time that even if she got through, it would be hard to be in a position where she would be close to the action, because people would be suspicious of her. But I did argue very strongly for them opening the trunk and her not being there. I would have liked to if I wanted her to win.
Well, she even shoots herself, unbelievable.
I know, that's really gutsy.
So I'm curious, playing a professional woman who's at a very high level, at a very powerful organization. I know this seems like a women's question, but I actually think it's very important. How did you work with the costume designer on her look? And where were the boundaries in terms, because she's a sexually attractive woman, but she's also a powerful professional woman. And you never get that awful sense that she's teetering on too high heels or something, even if she is wearing high heels.
I love costume. It's really important to me. It's really a big part of my process, because I feel like the clothes make you feel a certain way, and if acting in some respect is kind of bluffing. It's like going into somewhere and pretending to be something. And if you can dress it and that makes you feel it, it helps you so much. It's really hard to act in the wrong costume. If they give you something and it's just not right, it's a really discombobulating kind of feeling. So Katina is fantastic, who did the costumes, and it was a very specific thing. I think our first costume fitting was 4 hours, because we just went through so much stuff to try and find, because we wanted it to feel that that there was a luxuriousness to the way that she dressed, that she was high level, that it wasn't too fussy though, it was professional. But that she was, that she was above a lot of people that, she was working with, that she didn't, it was important that she didn't look like just a secretary or something working in an office.
There's a certain European sophistication.
Yes, and that's what we wanted as well, that she worked so much time in Europe, and that, that she had that kind of look to it too, a less kind of American kind of look.
So talk to me about some of the other women on the show, especially perhaps your frequent director, Leslie Linka Glatter, and her role in helping you with this performance.
She's amazing. She's an amazing person to work with. She brings this incredible life force and energy with her as a person. I mean, she was a dancer, and I think that energy comes through in her. She's incredibly enthusiastic, and she keeps a hold of everything that is going on, and she's just this incredible force. But to work with as a director as well, she really spends a long time working on scenes until she feels that they're right. She really takes time with stuff, and she understands the characters so well and understands the story so well. And she really makes you feel very relaxed on set and lets you read through stuff first and try different things. And yeah, she's a very great asset to the show.
So tell me, are you able to be truly collaborative with the writers in terms of pushing them in certain directions and adding notes and details?
I didn't collaborate a lot, to be honest, because I felt like they really knew what they were doing, and I was always really happy when I read everything. So I didn't, get on the phone a lot. And I know some people do. I always felt like if I was calling, I'd probably be calling them in the middle of writing, and I didn't want to interrupt them. And to me, they really understood what they wanted to do. And occasionally I'd ask about something, or I'd shoot off an email or something and ask what they were thinking or what they wanted.
Were you aware of one writer or another being more involved in your character as part of the writer's room?
Well, not all the writers got to come over when we were working. So there were a couple, like Alex wasn't there at all until the very end when I was working. So I spoke to him on the phone a few times, but Ron Niswainer, he was there a number of times. So I felt like I talked to him a lot about my character. He's really lovely. Meredith was there a couple of times. Charlotte was there. But people would come and go. And I spoke to various people. I suppose I spoke to Ron quite a bit. Yeah.
Do you ever worry about, we have an industry that is challenged on the movie side a bit in terms of coming up with good roles for women, and the television side is so much better, but Homeland represents sort of the ne plus ultra, the best of the best, and you've shown what you can do. You absolutely have. Do you worry that you'll never come up with a part as good as this again? I mean, I wonder what your feelings are about that.
Yeah, it was a really hard part to leave, I have to say, because it was such a juicy part, and it was so complicated, and you're working with such amazing actors and writers, and everything that you read is such a joy to perform. So there is that moment on leaving of like, oh really, it has to be over? Oh no, I really and certain characters, they get to me and they stay with me for a while. So it's hard to leave Alison behind, I have to say. It is really hard.
Can you tell me some things that are coming up for you?
I actually just finished the pilot for 24, and I will find that out in the middle of May whether we're going ahead. And so I ended up staying in
that world
because I liked that world, because I think I just enjoyed playing a professional. I enjoyed playing someone who was very intelligent. I enjoyed playing someone who was defined by her work and not her role as a mother or a wife. I just really enjoyed being a character in itself, independent, not an appendage of anybody else. And I suppose I'm sort of drawn to that world. I just really enjoyed it. I mean, one of the closest relationships I actually had on this was Alex had an advisor on the show who used to work for the CIA, and they put me in contact with him because I said, I'm going to have to do a massive catch-up here. All the other actors have been in this world. They know how it works. They know what they're talking about, and I have to learn this really quickly. Because I only had about a week or 2 weeks before it started from auditioning to actually being on screen. It was really close. And they put me in touch with John, and we would have these huge, long conversations about, the scripts and what this would mean and what would I do and what would my history be. And we made up this whole backstory of how I'd gotten into the position and how things would work. And he advised books that I should read. So he was a real touchstone for me. Like, I always felt like I could ask him about anything, and he would, give me the truth of how it would go down.
The psychology of the relationship with the handler fascinates me.
Yeah, me too. Because if you're not true to anybody in your life, if there's no relationship that you're having with anybody that is real, then the handler then has to be everything. He's your father. He's your lover in some way. He's your he's, you know, it's even at times I would think, oh, it's almost like an actor-manager relationship. You know, they're kind of coaching you through things, you know, dealing with your psychology, you know, trying to, you know, because they are putting you in such a precarious position in this, that they have to deal with all your phobias and concerns. They have to like let you vent, because the only time that you can truly vent is with them. So it reminded me at times of, you know, the kind of actor agent, actor manager thing.
Well, she is an actor.
Yeah, she is an actor.
Artist.
And he's telling her, you know, you're the best, you can do it, nobody does it like you. Or publicist.
So are you looking for work in film, or does the stuff you read fill you with despair? What kind of, they must be chasing after you right now.
Look, I love film. I did a film back in Australia called The Daughter, which has been out in Australia and it's done really well, and terrific director Simon Stone, and really great cast. So I still really enjoy doing films. I just in America got very drawn into the television world because of the roles, and particularly the women's roles, and because I watch a lot of television. You know, I really, the way that we consume television now, it's so convenient, and I'm drawn to these stories that take place over a long period of time, you know, developing a character over a long period of time, the kind of the different subtleties and the different levels and the places that you can take them are so interesting. But no, I mean, I love working film. I love to work in films as well.